Hi everyone. I wanted to take a little time today. I want to say welcome back. I hope all is going well. I wanted to review a little bit about what you've read about in chapter 19.4. So last class you guys did the maps of Germany and Italy, and I wanted to kind of just review some of the content with you. So for right now, I'd just like you to listen. I think likely today I'm going to give you some time to work on your reading, and then we'll also have a video to watch on Russia. So again, to like put us back into the time frame that we left off in, remember that we were studying the Industrial Revolution in England in 19.1 and 19.2. We studied kind of how England went from the agricultural revolution to the industrial revolution, and how then they sort of had positive and negative effects of that. And then we kind of looked at France a little bit, what was happening there, how they had some political kind of fluctuations. I think an interesting connection to what we learned about with France is Germany. Otto von Bismarck is very masterful in how he kind of baits France eventually into a war, and that's how he finally is able to get Germany all unified. And that also leads to the capture of Napoleon III, which was the last leader that we learned about in the French Empire. So in any case, nationalism is a huge theme that comes out of the French Revolution. If you remember, Napoleon, in taking over most of continental Europe, it kind of inspired many people to sort of rise up against him because he imposed the French language and the Napoleonic Code, all kinds of different things like that on Europe. So, what is nationalism? We see that it embodies culture, so shared beliefs and a way of life to create a common bond. It could be history, a shared past that connects people as a group. It could be that they have a common religion that unites them. It could be a common language that would unite them, or also just territory, certain land that gives people a sense of unity. So from there, we first look at Italy. So when we look at Italy, there's probably four main people that we need to know from Italy. So Manzini founds Young Italy as early as 1831. Victor Emmanuel is really important because he's the king. And he will appoint Count Cavour as prime minister. Here's Manzini again, who helped set up a revolutionary republic in Rome in 1849. I think when Victor Emmanuel appoints Cavour prime minister, that's pretty important as well. And you can see this is where things really start moving. Cavour defeats Austria, annexes Lombardy. Nationalist groups overthrow Austrian-backed rulers in the northern Italian states. Sardinia joins Britain and France in the Crimean War. The other big person that we need to know is Garibaldi, and you guys kind of, you did your little heads either about Bismarck or Garibaldi. He was really instrumental because he pretty much brought all of sort of the middle of Italy and all the way down to like Sicily together. And so and then nobly, he sort of, it's said that Garibaldi was like the sword of Italy, and then Victor Emmanuel is kind of like, he's the head, I guess, and then Cavour is like the brains of it. He brought them all together. So he turns over both regions to Victor Emmanuel. Victor Emmanuel then is crowned King of Italy, and Cavour dies. And Venice is added to Italy, and then France is forced to withdraw from Rome. Italy is united by 1870. So a little more details on that. You have Napoleon. Oh, my little face here is in the way of my maps. Here, let me see if I can move it. You have Napoleon, the Congress of Vienna. Austria is in the north. That's kind of how they said it. You have the Habsburgs, you have the French in Naples and Sicily. Manzini's Young Italy, again, I just talked about that. They're already plotting to sort of unify Italy, and it's a thought that they have, that they want to have. And the goal to create one Italy, one free, independent, Republican nation. In 1849, his efforts amounted to setting up a revolutionary republic in Rome. French forces soon toppled that, but he then lived most of his life in exile, but he is a significant figure to know. In 1849, Sardinia has a successful revolt, and this begins the Italian nationalist movement. Now, up here on the map, you can see Sardinia is below Corsica, where Napoleon was born, remember? But this is all Italian, so it's an Italian island here. So we have the Kingdom of Sardinia right here, and this is also Italy. Now, you did that map work, which should help you give a sense of, what a big piece of territory, especially Garibaldi, brought to Italy once he deferred and gave that. And gave that to Victor Emmanuel II. So Count Camille Cavour is the prime minister in 1852. He edited a newspaper called Il Risorgimento, which is important because it just kind of got people excited about learning and coming together, learning about nationalism for Italy. He believed in realpolitik. He wanted to improve Sardinia's economy. He encouraged commerce by supporting free trade. A long-term goal was to expel Austrian power from Italy and to add Lombardy and Venetia to Sardinia. So they're already like looking over here to these different pieces, which ultimately they do. They do actually successfully complete that. Not do. Doesn't sound good. Okay. So we can see here on this map, move my face out here. Here we have the Piedmont area. I mean, this kind of gives us a larger sense. I think one of the maps, the German map, kind of showed you this, but you have Russia, you have the Austrian Empire, you have France, you have Switzerland, you have all these different pieces. You can see that, and then A, B, C, D, E is giving you different pieces of the Italian puzzle that eventually is all unified. So again, in 1855, Prime Minister Cavour forms an alliance with France in the Crimean War. We saw that on the timeline. The northern Italian states are freed from the Austrian Empire following that. Garibaldi joins Manzini's Young Italy movement in 1833. Garibaldi then, and this is kind of, look, this is Garibaldi putting on the boot of Italy. He's kind of giving that to the king. So this cartoon kind of shows the dynamic between Garibaldi and Victor Emmanuel II, who was the king of Sardinia and then ultimately Italy. So he liberates southern Italy and Sicily. He took control of Naples and the Kingdom of the Two Sicilies by 1860. Cavour was fearful of Garibaldi and thought he would keep the land for himself. Garibaldi wanted a republic, but Garibaldi ultimately gave his conquest to Sardinia, Piedmont. He turns it over to Victor Emmanuel. So I think that's a really big piece of the Italian nationalist struggle, is that Garibaldi fought for freedom all through Italy and then ultimately gave a huge pieces of land to Victor Emmanuel II, ultimately unifying it. So here we have an image. In February 1861, Victor Emmanuel declared himself King of Italy. The Constitution made a limited monarchy with a parliament. Two areas still remained outside of Italy, Venice and Rome. In 1866, Venice was incorporated into Italy as a result of an alliance with Otto von Bismarck that had to do with sort of German statesmanship with Bismarck as he was trying to kind of build his own country. Rome was captured by Italian troops in 1871, and so it's finally liberated. And these are all kind of the most important leaders right there. Okay, then we move on to Germany. So when we look at Germany, we see Napoleon's impact. After the Congress of Vienna, you have the German Confederation built. Remember also the Holy Roman Empire kind of falls apart during this time, and that was a big part of what was Germany. And so that falling apart is a big thing. Prussian leadership, Frederick Wilhelm IV promises a constitution, but bans publications and organizations that were supported, not supported, I guess, directly by him. The Zollverein, remember, was in 1834, and it was a customs union. That was in your reading from before. It allowed for the removal of all tariffs between German states, and it included all German states by 1844. This is important because, again, it's like more unity, working together, kind of like in the United States. We don't have any necessarily like taxes between states. It's more of like there's tariffs, but those are to other countries. The German composer Richard Wagner is really important because he starts to sort of have different musical pieces that are very like German, authentically German, and sort of echo back to old German history and things like that. And then here, you did the map. This map is going to show you the Zollverein too, just like what it constituted. And you can see it's a pretty large area. And let's see, and how it got bigger too. So 1827 was just the dark blue. New entities were sort of this lighter blue. And then by 1834, much bigger. And it even expanded. So again, they're not being taxed within this. It's almost like a country working together, even though it wasn't politically a country, it was economically. So that's kind of an interesting thing to say, that economic unity preceded political unity. And then we look at Otto von Bismarck. He's this Prussian Junker. Remember, the Junkers were sort of the elite group in Germany, or sorry, in Prussia, of elite being like they were from like the wealthiest families, and they were trained to be soldiers. So in 1862, King Wilhelm made him chancellor or prime minister, and he was a master of realpolitik. And realpolitik was kind of this like pragmatic type of statesmanship, and he funded the army with money for other things. He treated Austria as an ally or an enemy depending on his needs. So he's very strategic in kind of what he was doing. Strategic, pragmatic, kind of like even Machiavellian, I think, in some cases. The ends justified the means. The Ems dispatch was an edited telegram that was sort of purposefully designed to incite war with France. So many times he was kind of just like, if he wanted to go to war with someone, he would just kind of do it. And if he didn't, vice versa, he would sort of manipulate people. But in the end, he really unified Germany. So Bismarck targeted two groups he believed posed a threat to the German Empire, the Catholic Church and the Socialists. So that's one thing that does happen after they are unified. So here's sort of a timeline of Germany. Napoleon abolishes the Holy Roman Empire in 1806. You have the Rhine Confederation from 1807 to 1812. That's still under Napoleon. And 1814, the Congress of Vienna sets a German Confederation. In 1830, you have this economic unity through the Zollverein. Then you have the Frankfurt Assembly, so that's just a political organizing in 1848. In 1862, Bismarck is named prime minister. In 1864, you have Schleswig and Holstein, which is those pieces that they were fighting over with Denmark, one of the early kind of wins that they had. Then the strategic setup by Bismarck for war with Austria so that they could get then the North German Confederation. And then the Franco-Prussian War in 1870. By 1871, the German states were all united, and you have the Second Reich under Kaiser Wilhelm I. And in 1890, Bismarck is fired by Wilhelm II. And so how did each of the following unite Germany? I think this is kind of an interesting thing to think about, and all of your maps kind of show this also. 1864, this war with Denmark, it allied... This is where Bismarck allies with Austria to defeat Denmark, and Prussia takes Schleswig, Austria takes Holstein. In the Austrian War, or 7 Weeks' War in 1866, Prussia wins and adds more territory. So Holstein and several other German states in the north became the North German Confederation. And then finally, you have this Franco-Prussian War in 1870. France did not want a Prussian to gain the Spanish throne. Bismarck edited a telegram, the Ems telegram, causing Napoleon III to declare war, and Prussia won, and it humiliated France. This is also where Napoleon III is captured, and it goes from being, that was the third empire of France, to then becoming another republic. And because he's never able to kind of regain the public confidence after that. And then Prussia will gain Alsace-Lorraine. And the Second Reich, it was a two-house legislature ruled by an emperor and his chancellor. There was 25 separate states. So you can see on here, this is the creation of the German Empire. So you have, again, this is kind of what you guys already did, where you were like finding all these different places. And it just shows how it expanded. Okay, so also in your reading, it talks about the dual monarchy. So this whole 19.4, 19.5, it goes from talking about the unification of Italy and Germany, and then it's going to also talk about Austria-Hungary and what's happening there. So this is what's happening in Austria-Hungary. 18-year-old Francis Joseph takes the throne. He ignores nationalist demands. Remember that where nationalism in Italy and Germany unifies them and brings them together, nationalism in Austria-Hungary, or it was Austria and then Hungary, but the Austrian Empire is sort of a nightmare. So how does that play out? Well, he tries to ignore them, then he grants a new constitution. He sets up a legislature with German-speaking Austrians, but then he creates the dual monarchy, the Compromise of 1867, and it lasts for 50 years, until 1918, which is the end of World War I. Francis Deak is the Austrian, he'll set up the Hungarian Compromise. So basically, they create two separate states. Each had their own parliament and constitution. They shared the same king, Francis. Joseph, and they each had different they shared also ministries of finance, defense, and foreign affairs. The conflict was that Austrian Germans, you had the Austrians speaking German, you had the Hungarian Magyars speaking Hungarian, and then you had even more nationalities outside of that. So while this was a perhaps short-term solution or band-aid, it was not something that was going to prevent ultimate sort of upheaval. And we have in Russia, I'm actually going to stop here because I think I'm going to have you guys watch The Land of Czars. We've gone about